You're in the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
With Gene and Chris, we're back at the Paracast for... This is technically our second show for 2016. Our first show was recorded the last week of December. So we'll call it the second show, and we'll get into our guests a little bit later. Right now, I do want to bring up one thing here. Obviously, we've interviewed a few people who are real veterans in the UFO field, getting on in years and such. And one of them, who was really one of our better guests over the years, back in 2010, was Dr. Frank Salisbury, who had been in the UFO field for, 100 years or so. And he died in late December. Yeah. I think he was close to 90 years of age.
I think he was, yeah. Well, a classic book that he wrote, The Great Utah UFO Display. I mean, one of the best books about a state or a region, one of your best regional titles. The work that he and Junior Hicks did in the Uinta Basin around the Skinwalker Ranch area is just, a boilerplate for what a lot of other people should be doing. And he was a real inspiration for me. And I was very happy that I got a chance to get to know him a little bit and pick his brain. And he was very gracious and gave me pointers on how to properly go about documenting sighting cases, how to interview people, types of questions to ask, the tenor and posture that you should have with people that have had life-changing, sometimes experiences. And he was a really good guy, a very good teacher for many years in Utah. And I think he'll be missed by those of us who knew who he was and admired and appreciated his work.
Now, I was looking up some information about Dr. Salisbury. He had written a textbook that was a bestseller called Plant Physiology and also Geochemistry and the Biosphere. So he had been very much involved in botany as a plant physiologist. It wasn't just UFOs. This is a solid scientist with real credentials who gets involved in this field, and so few people who are scientists, will they ever bother? Or if they do, they're not going to admit it.
Right.
You wouldn't want to admit that you, oh my heavens, are a UFO researcher.
God forbid.
Just think, what was it? It was Congressman Dennis Kucinich, who was the godson of Shirley MacLaine or something like that. And he's running for president one year, I think 2004. And he admits to a UFO sighting. Whatever happened to Dennis Kucinich?
Well, I don't know. Anytime a politician has Shirley MacLaine stick up for him and mention UFO sightings, that's like, what was that Steve McQueen movie, The Blob? Well, you could call this the slime. It's like this big amorphous creature that comes out of the TV sets and gobbles your candidacy up and spits it out. It's unfortunate.
Don't dare be involved in UFOs. Of course, John Podesta, who has worked with both the Clintons and the Obamas, wrote a foreword for Leslie Kean's UFO book.
Right.
So he got away with it. And then he had a tweet where he hoped to get to the bottom of UFOs. And by the way, Hilary Clinton was asked about interest in UFOs and getting to the bottom of the mystery. I'm going to ask our guest, Chris Rutkowski, about that because he wrote a piece about it.
So I'm going to look into Area 54 in New Mexico. It's like, oh, okay. Oops. So a little Freudian slip there, maybe.
Right. Oh, there's an Area 54. Oh, is there? All right. How many areas are there?
Well, there's Area 52, the San Luis Valley. There's Area 53, which would probably be, I don't know, Dugway or somewhere around there. Area 54, White Sands, maybe. I don't know. You could speculate.
What area could it be? What does she know that she's not telling? They're releasing all her emails that were done on her private email server.
Oh, I can't wait. That's going to be a bestseller. Oh, I can't wait.
Well, a lot of them have been released already, and they are so boring. Like, in one of the messages, she writes about gefilte fish, about a shipment of gefilte fish going to Israel, I think. And it got delayed.
Where else would a shipment of gefilte fish go?
Phoenix. I can buy gefilte fish here.
Yeah, but a shipment?
Well, they have to send supplies to the local delis.
They send a box to Arizona, and you get half of it.
I don't like gefilte fish.
Oh, I just have fantasies of lathering gefilte fish on some beautiful damsel in distress, and never mind.
I've heard of sexual perversions. Gefilte fish. I ate
It's
that
the most disgusting. Ugh. Blah. You actually eat that stuff?
I have.
And you like pickled herring too, I bet.
I hate herring.
I don't know. Whenever I hear gefilte fish or herring, it just reminds me of being a little too close to the downwind portion of Denmark, Stockholm somewhere. I don't know.
Sure, but when you were in New York City, you went to the 2nd Avenue Deli or something.
All the time. I loved it, but I never got gefilte fish.
You see,
I got gefilte fish.
Let me tell you a story. When I was a kid, we'd go to my grandmother's house, and she'd make us a kosher meal. And I'd taste a little bit of it, I admit, but I prefer the chicken and the other stuff that's going on there. I wasn't so crazy about the fish, or any fish. I do not like seafood, folks.
Ooh, I love seafood. It used to be my favorite cuisine, but Fukushima wrecked all that.
Well, there is that. I have to ask my son. He used to like sushi. But the only fish I could tolerate, and this is really weird, was canned tuna fish. All right?
Which is fishier than raw tuna.
Perhaps.
No, it is. Trust me.
Don't ask me how I could tolerate it. I could tolerate canned tuna fish. The usual brands, Starkist, whatever they are. I don't know who does it now. Of course, I worry about the quality of that. Of course, on the other hand, if you really want to worry about the quality of food or anything, think of the water in Flint, Michigan. You haven't heard about this controversy over Flint, Michigan, where they changed the water supply, and now all the children in Flint, Michigan have some level of lead poisoning.
Oh, great.
This is not a conspiracy theory, folks.
Oh, that's just peachy.
That's the controversy that's going on now. And movie producer Michael Moore is
involved. I thought this was a paranormal show.
Well,
we're talking about lead poisoning, gefilte fish, and your grandmother.
Well, let's put it this way. Don't you think gefilte fish has to be gefilte fish has to be a horrible paranormal experience, right?
Well, the gefilte fish that ate Brooklyn.
I tell you, if you can afford to live in Brooklyn nowadays.
Brooklyn.
Right. Well, my wife, Barbara.
I lived in Park Slope for a little while.
Well, Barbara's a Coney Island girl.
Oh, that explains it.
Oh? There's something there, some kind of meaning that's implicit in what you're saying there. Oh, by the way, I just want to tell you something, and we'll get into more of it later. The first video of the Paracast video channel, Paracast Plus, the Paracast Plus video channel went up this past week. It is about 33 minutes. Really, really beautiful quality. We really were able to get the best out of it. Chris is the filmmaker on that project, and you also hear the soundtrack, which is his band playing some really beautiful music. Well, the only way you can watch this video, folks, though, is to join the Paracast Plus at plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com. Sign up for month to month, a year, 5 years, the rest of our lives. We welcome your membership however it comes. So we now have the ad-free version of this show. After the Paracast, the wrap-up show with extra interviews and discussions and such. We also have the beginning of show transcripts. More are being worked on, and our first video of the Paracast Plus video channel. And it's just wonderful. It's a great piece of work from Chris. More is coming. Chris Rutkowski is coming in our next segment with Gene and Chris. So we have the double Chris's or the Gene and KK or something. We'll figure it out. You're in
After the Paracast.
I know that a lot of our listeners are interested in UFOs, the issue of giant skeletons found in America, paranormal investigations, and what the top researchers think about such topics. One online magazine has been presenting such unusual information since 1985. It is Alternate Perceptions Magazine at apmagazine.info. Use their search function to find articles on just about every topic imaginable. That's apmagazine.info. So here's what happened. I was placing an order online. The site went down. It took hours before it returned, but I'd already placed the order with another company. If your site goes down, you could lose business. And if you have a business or personal site, you'll want to know it's easy to run and it will stay online. At iWeb, your site is hosted on one of the most reliable networks in the world. Talk to a sales rep at iWeb.com. Use the promo code TechNightOwl for a special discount.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
We use mobile devices right against our bodies every day, but growing scientific evidence has emerged showing serious health risks associated with exposure to EMF radiation emitted from these devices. The solution is Defender Shield, the most effective mobile radiation shielding ever developed. Defender Shield blocks virtually 100% of EMF radiation from cell phones, tablets, and laptops, and starts at just $64.99. Buy now at DefenderShield.com. For 10% off, use promo code GCN. DefenderShield.com, the worldwide leader in mobile radiation shielding.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective, multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com today.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
With Gene and KK, we've got Chris Rutkowski, noted UFO researcher from Canada, whom we consider a class act. And he's also, I guess, into science fiction to some degree, since he does this great Ming the Merciless imitation, which he once performed on radio, or twice. How many times did you do it?
Oh, I think I did it twice, actually. Perhaps a third. You will learn, Earthlings.
Uh-oh, we're in trouble now. Did you see, by the way, the new Star Wars film?
I did, yeah.
Well, we made a big deal of it and the cultural myths and everything in last week's episode with Micah Hanks. So I'm going to ask you, did you like it?
You know, I actually did. For me, it was, I'd say it was very, very good. Not great. I would say not up to the 1977 version, but I would have to say it was pretty good. I did enjoy it.
I kind of think that the full title is Star Wars: The Marketing Force Awakens.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question that Disney has really calculated this well, apart from a few glitches with not having Rey as an action figure. But we can talk about that some other time. But they really did cash in on this. This is really quite remarkable, and even for people who aren't that into Star Wars, I'd have to put it up in the success category for Disney.
Well, certainly it has surpassed Avatar in box office receipts in the U.S., but it's going to take a while before we see how well it does overseas. Usually, though, these days, if a film could make a certain amount of money in the U.S., it's 2 or 3 times that amount in overseas receipts.
Oh, absolutely. It's overseas where the money's really made. People standing in line in Omaha don't really factor in compared to what plays in certain parts of Asia. So, yeah, it will remain to be seen how it plays. However, I think the animation, the remarkable special effects, and the virtually identical storyline to the 1977 version kind of guarantees that they're going to have some success, because a lot of the people who are seeing it today really don't have the context for 1977. I mean, I remember going to see it on a press pass back in 1977, and when I came back, I tried to get my colleagues in the Science Fiction Society to go to it, and I had trouble convincing them that it was worth seeing, because up until then, science fiction movies were The Day the Earth Stood Still, a lot of really good or bad rubber aliens, that type of thing. But then to go to this next step was really unexpected and really set the genre going in a different way.
Well, certainly the following year they had Superman the movie, because they showed that a big budget fantasy or sci-fi film could work.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that, I think, was the harbinger of things to come, where science fiction films could become big budget spectaculars. Although the first Star Wars film, I think, cost like $8 million.
Yeah, they got their bang for their buck. I think the first movie spectacle that I think a lot of people market from, and I remember seeing this in the movie theaters too, was Krakatoa east of Java. And that was in Sensurround, which was a big thing back then. But it was a full-screen extravaganza, and it was a big-budget special effects movie that was completely unexpected. And that actually led to all the other disaster movies, and then later the science fiction movies, which followed after that. So, somewhere around the early 70s, we started getting into some really spectacular territory.
Then, of course, Star Trek, the motion picture.
Yeah, although, Star Trek #1 bombed badly. It went into every second movie that was good. But we were starting to see, as what I was describing to someone else, that this was the Steven Spielberg generation, where you could actually see on a movie screen all the fantastic ideas and images that you could only read about previously. And that was so wonderful about the first Star Trek in 1977, that you could actually visualize this basically space opera, shoot 'em up, doing so well to capture the imagination and have the such a strong delineation between good and bad, and the bad guy wore black, the good guy was in white, except for the stormtroopers, which we won't talk about, and then you had these funny alien creatures like Yoda, which had enough of a bizarre element in there that really got some of the science fiction fans really hyped up for the possibilities. So it was the fact that we could visualize or see on the screen things that we had only read about previously that really started the trend going. And of course, now that you have the comic books springing to life on both TV and in the movies, there's a whole generation from 40 years ago that is finally seeing some of the stuff that they had only read about previously and seeing it on the screen. And it'll be interesting to see how long this lasts.
Well, the one thing here is that even on TV, they can get half-decent special effects. And to show you how mainstream the comic book stories are, in the 50s with Superman, after like the first year, they basically made it just for kids, or primarily for kids. Whereas now, the People's Choice Award, which is the people voting for the best shows and the best actors and actresses. The People's Choice Award for the best new drama on TV is Supergirl.
Yeah, that was very surprising. I didn't understand that at all.
Well, it has, other than compared to the other comic book shows, more of a sunny outlook, which may not appeal to a lot of people. The special effects are okay, but you have to compare it to earlier examples. Like, for example, just the other day, I was looking at a DVD I had of the original Superman TV series from the 1950s with George Reeves.
Yeah.
And I saw an episode called Panic in the Sky, and that's the one where they have this asteroid coming to the Earth, and Superman deflects the asteroid and then loses his memory. I mean, the special effects were so bad you can actually see the asteroid and the little string suspended above it, holding it in the air. That's how bad it was, but they didn't care.
No, and that's why when Star Wars came along in the 70s, and it really did, look exactly like the comic books, the pulp magazines, because Star Wars is basically a visualization or a recreation of a pulp novel from the 1930s. That was what the appeal was, that it didn't look as special effectsy as the previous rubber monsters and flying saucers and spaceships on strings, like Thunderbirds. It was something that really was, you were able to think, hey, this is really cool. This could be how it could be in the future.
Now, there was one sci-fi film I remember from the 50s other than Day the Earth Stood Still, which had okay special effects, and that was Earth versus the Flying Saucers. The special effects were stop motion from Ray Harryhausen. They were very good, but the only thing to bear in mind is the screenplay was actually loosely based on a book by Major Donald Kehoe. The book was Flying Saucers from Outer Space, and I think it may have influenced maybe the first 30 or 40 seconds of the actual film. Major Kehoe never quite lived that down.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. We got more to come with Chris Rutkowski, Gene, and KK. You're in the Paracast.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
No other network provides the level of customer service we do. When it comes to radio advertising, we are your one-stop shop. And no matter how big or small your business is, we can help. Email us at advertise@gcnlive.com, and an experienced advertising executive will help you take the first step towards driving more customers to your business or website. Advertise@gcnlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
Why be held hostage by your wireless carrier for 2 years? What if you had no contract, no activation fees, no hidden costs, tracking, tracing, harvesting customer data, or draconian gimmicks, all on the nation's best 4G LTE network? Introducing Pix Wireless. Bring your phone and other qualifying devices to Pix and choose a plan starting at only $14 a month. Get connected now. Call or click 1-866-267-2056 or pixwireless.com. Spelled P-I-X, wireless.com. Pick Pix and get connected today.
Hi, this is Sophie Winnick, longtime distributor and user of Youngevity products. In the last few years, my family went through a crisis. Everything else in my life, including my business, had to be put on the back burner. Thankfully, life is getting back to normal now. But the one thing I never had to worry about was my business and my monthly commission. I've been a distributor for Youngevity for over 17 years, since before it was Youngevity. And I've got to say, the most amazing thing about this company is the people. While my family was in crisis, other distributors stepped in and helped my customers, simply because that's what Youngevity people do, even for people they don't know. For me, it has never been about getting rich. It was about a product I could stand behind, a company I could count on, and a monthly commission check that has never, not once, been late in 17 years. Youngevity is truly a business for everyone, even people who have too much to do. I'm Sophie Winnick. I'm just like you. I have a real life, real ups and downs, but I know I will always have Youngevity.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-905-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV.
Removing bad taste and odor from your drinking water is easy. Removing the bad stuff you don't taste is what ProPure does best. Water the way nature meant it to be. Clean, crisp, and refreshing. See the complete line of ProPure countertop, inline, gravity, and household water filtration products. Visit your authorized ProPure dealer or ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com. Or call 800-544-3533.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
Let us continue, folks, with Chris Rutkowski. And we're starting off, before we get into the UFO paranormal realm, with a little bit of pop culture and sci-fi, since he has a deep interest in that. And we were mentioning films that had A-list production values. Day the Earth Stood Still, Forbidden Planet, which is very much a precursor to Star Trek, like the Leslie Nielsen character and Captain Kirk, William Shatner. Think about how much they learned.
My all-time favorite, the one that I think really moved the bar, was Douglas Trumbull's work on 2001: A Space Odyssey, the Stanley Kubrick classic. Some of the shots in that were groundbreaking. It was your first realistic view of space. I think the fact that the soundtrack was purposely left silent in many of the big expansive space shots, and they just maybe would have some classical music, or it was just very, very dramatic and very effective. And I think that really did just leapfrog the whole genre forward light years. Of course, I'm partial to anything that Kubrick does. So
yeah, and there's no question that it was definitely groundbreaking, and it was a fantastic science fiction movie. But the problem is people didn't understand it. Whereas Star Wars was very simple. You know, bad guy, good guy, shoot him up, have to rescue the maiden, all that sort of stuff. It was very familiar. It was something that was easily relatable. Whereas 2001 made people have to think. And it did well in the box office eventually, but it didn't have the impact in terms of the public.
Right, you didn't have all your real archetypal characters and your mythological tie-ins to Joseph Campbell and that sort of thing. But hey, anything, at least in my estimation, anything that makes people think is a good thing.
Right, and
there's not enough of that going around.
There's not enough of that. That's exactly.
At least that amongst itself makes it interesting, making a sci-fi film a thought piece. And these days on TV and in the movies, sci-fi is commonplace. Now, maybe it's not always the more sophisticated sci-fi that the really dedicated fans might prefer, but they get there. They had Childhood's End, the Arthur C. Clarke novel from the 50s. It became a 3-part miniseries for Sci-Fi Channel.
Absolutely. I didn't get a chance to see it because we don't get that channel up here, But, that's true. We've got that. The Man in the High Castle was also just on, or I think it's still on, isn't it? The series still running. A lot of these classics are being turned into TV series. And because of the relatively high budgets, on Netflix and Amazon and Yahoo and so forth, that the special effects are right up there. And you can think of them as just long versions of movies about these particular novels.
Right. Yeah, another good one from back in the late 60s was Silent Running, which is an often overlooked film. Isn't that the one with Bruce Dern as the gardener in space, if I remember?
Right, and of course, those were the predecessors of R2-D2, too, the little drones. Yeah, it was, a lot of the stuff, back then was visualized. And of course, we have to mention Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I had met Alan Hynek just as he had finished shooting that final scene. He was, giving us a couple of spoilers about what was going on and how they used little girls as the aliens, and how he ad-libbed the bit about his pipe and things like that. But it was very interesting to see. There was an original film not based on some of the classic science fiction literature, but really which was playing to the popularity of UFOs and flying saucers, which had been brewing for, a couple of decades at that point. And you mentioned Earth versus the Flying Saucers based on Kehoe's book. And yet, there were not a lot of movies that really played to new ideas and visualizations of what people had been reporting as a basis of, the films and TV shows at the time. I mean, you have to ignore things like My Favorite Martian and I Dream of Jeannie, which all had episodes involving flying saucers, but those are more as jokes. And yet Close Encounters captured that idea very nicely about the fact that what if this is real and what if these are the things that are really going on.
So much for science fiction. Let's look a little bit at science fact, or what one perceives to be science fact.
Oh, for a second there, I thought you were going to talk about UFOs. Phew.
Well, you know what? Who knows? All right, so let's look at this. We have occasionally the stories of presidential candidates vowing to look into UFOs. And certainly Jimmy Carter, who saw a UFO, didn't really do that. They asked Bill Clinton, he didn't. But now Hilary Clinton, Secretary of State, and former U.S. Senator and former First Lady running for president, she has been asked about UFOs. And she's giving a promising answer, or just one of those answers where, well, maybe she's trying to, shall we say, placate people. What do you think?
Well, I think CNN had it right. CNN actually did cover the comment, but they had it right in that it was a joke. And, we have to understand that in the context of what was happening, there was a news conference going on. She had been asked quite a lot of other questions about everything from Syria to gun control and, everything in between. And towards the end of the news conference, this fellow, was patiently waiting in line, and then he sprung this question on her about, what are you going to do, or will you reveal the truth about what's going on with regard to UFOs? And apparently he had actually asked her a similar question a number of years ago, and she remembered, in the context of who this guy was. Now, in the context of what was going on, and the fact that she's on sort of a binge going from across the country campaigning, what would you do to reply to a question that was asked along these lines? She could have ridiculed him, she could have ignored him, or she could have said something to sort of not dismiss the question, but placate and sort of get onto other things. So ridicule wouldn't have worked because she was in a room full of reporters, and ridiculing another person for their beliefs is taboo, especially on the campaign trail. She couldn't ignore it because by the way that newsies go, you do actually have to answer the questions, or the person after you has an option of asking the same question, and you don't want to do that. So the only option that she had was to say, oh, yeah, sure, I'm going to, get to the bottom of it, which means what exactly? Number one, candidates very rarely follow through with their promises anyway, whether it has to do with UFOs or, chickens in every pot and all this sort of stuff.
You mean Donald Trump is lying when he says he's going to get Mexico to pay for the wall at our southern borders?
Hey, he wants to put a border against Canada too, which I think would be good because we want to keep him out as well.
You see, in that case, we'd have to have borders around every locale he's in.
Yeah. He has the money. He can do it. But I think that in this case, it really meant nothing. And I've seen people hyping this in Facebook groups and various other internet posts and things like that about how this was a bomb. This was ground shattering, that, the truth will be revealed and Hillary, is shown her true colors. And like I say, CNN had it right, that it was just not a dismissive comment, but a comment just, okay, I'll look into it. And everybody in the room thought it was a real joke. And if you think that in any way raises the public consciousness about UFOs or it raises awareness, that does the exact opposite. It makes people consider the field of ufology even less likely and less seriously. So the person asking the question actually did more damage to ufology than anything else. And Hillary's comment was basically, okay, I'll get to the bottom of it. I'll look into it right away.
I bet that day she called her aides and asked about it. We have Chris Rutkowski with Gene and KK. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Conspiracy Journal is your #1 source for the hidden world of the weird and strange. We bring you thought-provoking and controversial material for free-thinking individuals who are seeking what is really going on in our world today. Some of this material may adversely affect you. Other pieces are meant to enlighten. Either way, be prepared to be intrigued by such things as the reality of UFOs, ghosts, strange creatures from time and space, hidden conspiracies, time travel, Nikola Tesla, suppressed technology, and a whole lot more. You can find out more by visiting our website at conspiracyjournal.com. There you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter sent directly to your email address. Find out what they don't want you to know.
Hi, I'm Rick Ossick with Famous Footwear. Did you know that premature birth is the #1 killer of babies? That's why we support the March of Dimes in the fight against premature birth. Join us in supporting cutting-edge research, treatment programs, and outreach to help moms have full-term pregnancies and healthy babies. Learn how you can help save babies' lives at marchofdimes.org.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS?
Get on board with the Tax Admiral. Don't take on the IRS alone. I'll cut penalties and reduce your overall tax bill. Sometimes I can even get it zeroed out completely.
We're an A-rated company helping people clean up their mess with the IRS.
If you owe $10,000 or more, then call the Tax Admiral.
Call 800-287-7180. Again, that's 800-287-7180. 800-287-7180.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich? Working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare? Having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom106.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom106.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom106.com. Go to freedom106.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom106.com.
Are your Google search results killing you? Unflattering content in blogs, news articles, online reviews, social media, or other sources can jeopardize your reputation, your business, and your livelihood. Let Reputation.com help. Our patented technology will make the truth about you more visible while pushing down unwanted negative content. Improve your Google search results. Call Reputation.com at 1-800-831-0771 for a free consultation. That's 800-831-0771.
Hi, this is Don Ecker, and you are tuned into the Paracast. Let me tell you what, you're going to hear stuff here that you probably won't hear anywhere else. Hear that, George Snorri?
Chris Rutkowski joins us with Gene and KK, and we're starting to talk about the interests of presidential candidates, or lack thereof, in UFOs. Of course, the real secret is that maybe one of Hilary Clinton's unreleased personal email has the secret to UFOs. But the other fact is that John Podesta, who's one of her friends and is a manager of her campaign, has a real interest in UFOs.
Absolutely. And what I can say is that I have a real interest in UFOs too, and I can talk about the X-Files, and I've dressed up as Fox Mulder for Halloween and all that sort of stuff too. And I have a responsible position in an administration, not a presidential administration, but an administration at a major university. And I've even received an award for speaking to the public about science in the context of talking about UFOs and space and the universe and so forth. So, people in positions of relative power in terms of Podesta certainly have their own interests, but that does not mean that they have any insight or influence. It just simply means that, this is kind of what I'm into. I mean, what if he was a bird watcher? Would he be in Oregon right now telling Hillary to do something with what's going on in Oregon? I mean, it simply is a personal interest of his, and I simply don't buy, the belief that he has some sort of influence on other people in the administration.
Let's talk about presidents in general. Do you think any president had enough interest to really follow through?
Well, coming from Canada, I don't know enough about it, and I have to tell you that Grant Cameron has gone to presidential libraries. He's spent time finding documents. So he's really the guy, I'm sure he's been on your show talking about, the presidential connections. I personally don't think, I know one of the prevailing views is that the secret about UFOs in Area 51 and the aliens in the underground base and so forth is at a secret level higher than that which is allowed the president. And that there's some sort of, what was it, the term that I read somewhere, a transnational bureaucratic elite group that is actually...
Is there any other kind?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, are you talking about Coke or Apple? But these are the people who are actually in charge, so that the President of the United States himself or herself will actually never know the details or be allowed the details. If you put it in that context, there, of course, are probably a number of things that the chief of staff probably doesn't have privy to. He wouldn't have the details on secret clandestine operations in the Middle East down to that level anyways. He would be told there's something going on, but he wouldn't be told all the details. In fact, they might tell him for his own protection so that he can say something in public along the lines of, really, I have no information about this question, if he's ever questioned about what's going on. So I would say there certainly are things that chiefs of staff probably wouldn't be privy to. And whether the UFO thing is one of those or not, I don't see how any president would be given access to something like that if it really existed, and the fact that no president has even come close to admitting it, except in these interviews where they sort of joke around about, oh yeah, we have little guys in the basement and all this sort of stuff on a number of occasions, like Clinton did and a few others. Bush did at one point. That yeah, they're going to say something because people are asking about it, but they may not have the information themselves. So I suspect that presidents themselves don't have access to these things if they exist, and the chances of anything existing like that at all are pretty slim.
They talk about plausible deniability, but then you see what's going to happen if there was really a revelation of something like this, anything that maybe is being done on a security or top secret basis, and it gets revealed. Fox News, if it's a Democrat, or some other station, if it's a Republican president, will say, well, he's really not paying attention. He's inattentive because he didn't know this was going on.
That's true. But you could say that about Benghazi. You could say that about any major event that that hasn't been told to the public. So,
Benghazi, I don't think there's anything at this point left being revealed except how to shore up security. I think that's mostly a partisan fishing expedition. I mean, if you go through U.S. history, you'll see that there have been attacks at U.S. diplomatic installations for years. And sometimes people died, maybe not necessarily the chief diplomat or the ambassador, but people died. It happened during the second Bush administration. It happened during the Clinton administration. It happened during the first Bush administration. It happened when Reagan was president, but not everyone deserves 10 different congressional hearings.
I agree completely.
It's kind of wacky, but let's not get into that. Maybe we should talk about Area 54.
Exactly, yeah.
But I think that was the example to demonstrate that she wasn't taking it seriously. As soon as she said, oh, Area 54, that was it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You said Area 54 in New Mexico, which I found to be a little bit intriguing.
Well, New Mexico, Nevada. I mean, the fact is that, there's so many stories kicking around, and because she's not paying attention, and now who was it? Was it somebody had looked at the video of Obama while he was being interviewed by Jimmy Fallon or Colbert or somebody, and somebody who was with the CIA. And
no, it was Ben Hansen.
That was Ben.
I think used to be with the FBI.
He presents some interesting arguments that Obama was lying or caught out and that sort of stuff. I respect Ben. I've been at a number of conferences with him. I had dinner with him a couple of times, and he would know more about that than I would. I just don't buy it. There's just my intuition is just it just isn't sufficient for me to say that there definitely is something going on.
The thing we consider here, does any government official in a major Western nation, Canada, U.S., UK, are the actual government leaders privy to anything of this nature? Would they be? Would that be something where they'd rather not let them know? Or again, it's above their need to know?
Yeah, I think it's true. In the military compartmentalization, it would be out of their purview. They would not need to know this type of thing. In fact, it would harm them if they did know, because if they were actually questioned about it, they would be in a position to lie. And even though they probably do that quite a bit anyways, the less they have to do of that, the better. So it's actually better for them not to know the details. Having said that, there's no question that there's a lot of cases and information related to UFOs that are being kept from the public. I mean, it just stands to reason that there's sightings by military personnel, covert personnel, in areas where they're, not necessarily by the personnel themselves, but in areas that are very secure where things have happened. There's no question that some stuff is being kept from the public. It makes sense that there would be some things kept from the public. Does that mean that there's a cover-up? Does that mean that there's a need for disclosure? I don't think so. It simply means that that's the way that information is handled in this age where, we do have security issues around the globe.
Well, we've been seeing more and more lately claims that there's facilities on the moon, that there may even be facilities on Mars, and that there's, Richard Dolan coined the term breakaway civilization. Where do you come down on the possibility that somehow, through some sort of technological breakthrough or otherwise, that humans have already been back to the moon, that they've established some sort of presence on Mars? Do you think that there's any evidence that is intriguing enough to look into in that regard?
Well, I refer to the first half hour of this program, which started out clearly in the science fiction realm. I don't see any evidence. There's a lot of amateur astronomers who aren't controlled by them, who are constantly looking at the moon, and there would be some evidence seen of some kind of activity out there. I mean, the resolution of backyard telescopes is now good enough to see the remnants of limbs on the moon and things like that. So I think it's very unlikely. And, I find the stories about, military people fighting battles with aliens on the moon and things like that. It just, I'm more concerned about what people are actually reporting in the skies that are being seen and well witnessed and documented.
Yeah, closer to home.
Closer to home, we have to do this break.
Okay.
With Chris Rutkowski and Gene and KK. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
As your body ages, there's a 10% decline in your ability to repair each passing decade after the age 28. By age 40, your ability to repair from demanding manual labor, exercise, or a stressful desk job has declined by 12%. By using One World Whey, you supercharge your body's ability to repair and eliminate inflammation. Our unique frequency-encoded whey protein, coupled with our high-quality whey, improves your cell's ability to make protein, which is to say, repair itself.
My name is Jonathan Wright, and I'm 40 years old. I recently went from a desk job to a manual labor job. Normally, I'm worn out. With energy-enhanced One World Whey, I now recover so quickly that I can perform very hard work all day long. I use energy-enhanced One World Whey for breakfast and lunch, and I experience less hunger throughout the day. I have a 30% increase in energy, and I just feel better. I plan to make energy-enhanced One World Whey a permanent part of my lifestyle.
Call 888-988-3325 or visit oneworldwhey.com. That's oneworld, WHEY.com.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Oh, yes. We have to do a poll at the Paracast forums at forum.theparacast.com. Chris Rutkowski is one of the best at the fine art of doing a stinger.
I am a poll.
That's right.
So you'd win that one hands down.
Win that one right there.
Let's do a poll.
That's right.
Well, what do you think of the alleged dark side or the back side of the moon and the Blair cuspids and, partially broken down huge domes? There's a number of anomalies that have been photographed. The Chinese supposedly are going to, I think, go there and do some mapping, some more mapping and that sort of thing. You'd probably be more up on all that than I am. The Indians are talking about doing some flights. I think is it Venus that they're
a number of
going to. So we're seeing more of a multinational interest in going to other planetary bodies. Is there any possibility that some sort of smoking gun evidence will be announced by, I guess you would call them rogue nations that have that maybe don't have the kind of agreements that the Western world does with the United States in regard to aliens, UFOs? That's going on the assumption that there is such an arrangement. But do you think it's possible that if there is something there, and the Chinese and Indians or whomever, the European Space Federation type thing, if they see something, do you think that they would make an announcement?
Well, the Outer Space Treaty, which was passed by the UN back in 1965 even, or something like that, and since updated, it does say that all member nations, and the Indians and the Chinese are actually part of the later agreements, are bound. There's actually a statement in there that, activity on the moon has to be reported to the United Nations governing body in terms of whatever department that is on committee. I think that, the Chinese seem to have an interest in establishing a base on the moon. The Indians appear, like you say, are going to go to another planet. We're already very international. I mean, the International Space Station is truly international, built up from a number of nations that have contributed to it. So there's a lot of international cooperation, and it's interesting that even during the disagreements going on between the United States and Russia, that the cosmonauts and astronauts themselves on board the International Space Station continue their cooperation, and even now Russia continues to launch our supply ships, so that there is a really good era of cooperation in space right now. I mean, I know there's been photographs of this and photographs of that. A lot of it is interpretive. Certainly there have been a few touch-ups here and there. I don't see any strong evidence that that there are ancient aliens that have come here. Even though I have my Sukalicious T-shirt and hat occasionally on, I think it's unlikely that any of that was will actually be found on the moon or Mars or wherever. There's no question that there will be some anomalies. In fact, I'm just going through some of my old files, and there is a real phenomenon called transient lunar phenomena. And these are lights and other emanations that are seen on the moon by Earth-based telescopes. And they're actually quite a concern. There's some suggestion that the moon is still outgassing, which is unusual because it shouldn't be outgassing. But in fact, instruments were left on the moon by some of the Apollo missions to check for that, and some of them actually registered some positive readings. But the fact that lights have been seen on the moon for long before the space program and even after that is quite interesting. And there was one program from Corralitos Observatory, which I think is in Arizona or New Mexico, which specifically studied the transient lunar phenomena involving some very detailed cameras and analysis of some of the reports that were made by astronomers. And it's interesting that the person in charge of that program was none other than Alan Hynek of UFO fame. So not only was he looking into UFO phenomena here on Earth or over the Earth, he was looking into UFO phenomena on other worlds long before people realized that these things existed. And nobody knows about this chapter of his involvement, which I think is quite intriguing because it suggests that he was really trying to understand the UFO phenomenon scientifically, reasoning that if it's a natural phenomenon, maybe it will be occurring on other worlds, and hence the moon. So the fact that he was in charge of this program in the 60s and into the 70s suggests that there has been some good scientific data being collected all along about UFOs, and I really advocate the scientific approach. So whereas there are some interesting photographs and claims of bases on the moon and so forth, there are ways of studying the phenomenon that may yield some interesting results. If there is a base on the moon, maybe some of these transient lunar phenomena can be correlated with it. Maybe now that other nations are having flybys, the Chinese are going to be going there, maybe we can find out, what exactly is going on in some of the craters where some lights have been seen and things like that. I think that there will be a significant sharing of information because it's in the best interest of not just that nation, but other nations to try and understand what's really going on.
What do you think about the stories that come up occasionally of weird artifacts supposedly seen on the moon or on Mars, like the face on Mars?
Well, I buy the NASA version. I don't think that the face on Mars is anything other than a natural formation. And the most recent high-res images really do show that it's just a trick of the light. I don't think that it was a face, some sort of monument that was produced, and I think some people have now suggested that a nuclear blast, eroded it, so it looks less like a face now.
A nuclear blast. I want to ask you about that because we had a guest on the show a couple of times who maintains there was a nuclear explosion or a series of such explosions many years ago.
On Mars?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't see the evidence for it.
Well, there is evidence. There's a fairly consistent thin layer of radiation over the northern hemisphere of the planet.
Well,
that's Dr. John Brandenburg. He's an optical physicist from Wisconsin. He's the first one to propose a northern ocean on Mars, which is now accepted by the Martian scientists, Mars scientists. And he took their own data and established that there appeared to have been 2 air blast detonations, I think, 500 million years ago, 500 million years ago, if memory serves me correct.
Well, again, I don't have his data. I haven't looked at his data. I'm not going to challenge him on that sense, but I would guess that there would be, thin layers of radioactive particles because, of course, Mars, along with all other bodies in our solar system, have been bombarded by solar radiation and other bodies. Tunguska was certainly a comet exploding and so forth. So I suspect that there, would have been some asteroid or comet that might have left that. To say that it was definitely a nuclear bomb or a blast by some other civilization, that's sheer speculation. The fact that there's evidence of something is one thing, but to suggest that it was a nuclear detonation by some other civilization or a bomb, that is speculation. And I draw the line in the sand. I can speculate all along. And as far as the underground bases and things like that on Earth go, just recently I said something along the lines of I have inside information that there's an underground alien military base underneath the Pizza Hut in downtown Boise, and I dare you to prove me wrong. And, it's impossible to prove negatives like that because one can always come up with, other reasons why it still could be there, even though there's no evidence. And
actually, it's at the Domino's Pizza.
It's the Domino. Okay,
yes, it is. Yes, it is. But we have to break now, but not for pizza, unless you're hungry. Chris Rutkowski with Gene and KK. You're in
the Paracast.
Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
This is a healthcare alert from the Pain Relief Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You don't have to suffer any longer. You can immediately qualify for a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you by calling our 24/7 Pain Relief Hotline at 866-389-0620. Delivery is free and all paperwork is handled for you. If you are on Medicare and have knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain, don't wait. You can qualify to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost by calling our 24/7 Pain Hotline now at 866-389-0620. Our representatives are standing by 24/7 to take your call and rush you your pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you. Shipping is free and all paperwork is handled for you. Just call 866-389-0620. That's 866-389-0620. Again, 866-389-0620.
We use mobile devices right against our bodies every day, but growing scientific evidence has emerged showing serious health risks associated with exposure to EMF radiation emitted from these devices. The solution is Defender Shield, the most effective mobile radiation shielding ever developed. Defender Shield blocks virtually 100% of EMF radiation from cell phones, tablets, and laptops, and starts at just $64.99. Buy now at DefenderShield.com. For 10% off, use promo code GCN. DefenderShield.com, the worldwide leader in mobile radiation shielding.
My name is Don Wiskin. In 1994, I lost my 62-year-old father to complications of bypass surgery. In 1977, my 44-year-old brother was found dead in his apartment. He suffered a heart attack. In January of 98, my mother had a stroke and passed away in her bed. 21 days later, my 53-year-old brother passed away on his arrival to the hospital. He waited too long. In June that same year, I almost joined them at 42. What did I do? I took a 7-herb formula I now call Extendivite, made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, hawthorn, milk thistle, and valerian. Based on German studies of natural medicine, Extendivite is designed to clear blocked arteries, clean the toxins from your blood, and improve your immune system. To get your Extendivite, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit our website, heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Water is the single most important thing your body needs, so you want to be sure it's the best for you and your family. Since 2005, thousands have depended on Berkey purified water. The Berkey Guy provides the lowest priced filtration systems in every size. For incredibly delicious water now and in an emergency, get to GoBerkey.com or call 877-886-3653. 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
So, where do we go from here? Underground cavern below the Domino's Pizza in Boise, Idaho. There are probably a number of them.
Probably, yeah.
And maybe you'll feel like going there after having the pizza.
Indeed. Yeah, I concentrate on, as you know, I focus more on the reports themselves. And I know that some people on your forum have asked some questions about it as well. I don't have the 2015 data complete yet. We're probably a month or so away from closing off the data for 2015. I know people are still accepting reports for that. I know that we're right now, I have somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 700 or 800 UFO reports from Canada alone for 2015. A lot of them come from MUFON. A lot of them come from Peter Davenport. A lot of people have been sending reports directly to us at the Canadian UFO Survey. People have been sending them to UFO Info. I get Canadian government reports, and we still get reports from Twitter and Facebook and not yet Instagram, but I'm sure that's coming. But yeah, we're continuing to get in reports, so I can't even give you a breakdown. I do know that I'm doing a bit of a rough sort of cases that seem sort of pedestrian versus ones that aren't. And by that I mean, somebody sees a light in the sky and they live close to an airport. Well, it doesn't grab me. It may have an explanation and it may not, but it doesn't grab me as much as somebody who sees, a large black triangle with 100 lights around its perimeter flying low over their house. And there are a couple of cases like that. So just from the rough sort, I'd have to say that of the 800-ish reports that are, relatively uninteresting, there's probably about 100 that are somewhat interesting. And the problem is, of course, that most of the cases still in this day and age are not well investigated, in fact, not investigated at all. And that certainly causes a problem, whether we're talking about Canada or any other country around the world. There are some concerns that if the reports themselves, the UFO reports, are the basis upon which people can make pronouncements about aliens on the moon and underground bases and, whether the aliens dress as nuns and walk around Las Vegas and so forth, the reports themselves are not sufficient to make those statements, then those statements are sheer speculation, and anybody and everybody can make those things without anybody questioning them. And unfortunately, I think that's what's going on in ufology right now, that people are making statements and there's no way to refute them because there's no evidence one way or another to say, well, that doesn't sound right, or can you prove that, or anything like that. But the reports themselves are fascinating because they range from here's a report, and I'll just read it out to you. This is the 1st of September from 2015. And I'm just reading it out here. A person went out on his south-facing balcony, noticed a large, dime-sized, bright glowing orange ball with a fuzzy aura moving very fast from south to northwest across the sky. It seemed to be traveling about 3 or 4 times the speed of the plane. After about 2 minutes, it made a blip, like an EKG-like blip. Well, at the same time, it got brighter, faded, got bright again, and then with a second or two, sped up, shot forward, and disappeared. That's just one of the many cases that were reported to a number of organizations last year without talking to the witness. And I have to admit, I have not talked with this witness, who is, some distance away from me. I'm here in Winnipeg, and this person was somewhere else. But there's cases from one end of the country to the other. I mean, imagine if there's a couple of investigators in Florida and Alabama and Texas and Arizona and California. You get a report from Oklahoma. Well, are you going to dash out there and investigate, or you're going to hope that there's somebody in Oklahoma? Or what if you get a report from Ohio? Or what if you get a report from Maine? Who is going to be investigating these cases if there's no one physically there? And there really are not that many UFO investigators in Canada at all. There's maybe a dozen if I stretch it right now. When you're looking at a country that's as wide, actually wider than the United States, although the population is all scrunched along the border, there's a lot of area there to cover if people see UFOs. And how are you possibly to investigate? I mean, certainly some of the cases can be investigated over the phone, via email, but to really investigate, to get a sense of what the witness has actually seen, it's necessary to go to wherever that person lives and say, can you point out to me where this happened, and where in the sky did this occur, and how did it move, and did the person, whose house is over that ridge, did they see it? And you could go talk to that person. So there's a lot of investigation that still needs to be done, and it simply is lacking in a lot of cases. So I'd like to see more investigation, but even without all the investigation that we should have, collecting the data is a step in the right direction. We do get some demographics on what areas of the country have more cases, what time of day, the shapes that are being reported. There's some trends from year to year. And we've been doing this, remember, for more than 25 years. I think we're in our 27th year of doing this. And so that we are seeing some very interesting results. There's certainly no proof that the aliens are visiting us, but we're seeing some interesting cases come every year. And every year there are some residual cases that cannot be explained as airplane stars, fireballs, planets, and so forth. But what they do tell us is that there's a phenomenon that is persistent and has been occurring on record for at least 27 years, and we can verify the numbers and direction and so forth, and anecdotally much farther back than that. So it's an interesting exercise. The more data we get, the better. This can be used for other studies. I've already had requests for the database by other researchers so they can look for other things in the details. It's an interesting study, and I really think that at the very least, the tabulation and recording of UFO case data is one way to get a better understanding of what's really going on in terms of UFOs.
Over the years, there have been claims that UFO cases fall into certain patterns. I mean, back in the 50s, we had flying saucers in the straight line mystery and ley lines and things like that, that they form patterns. And if you look at those patterns, you might find areas that are sometimes called window areas that seem to attract more than their share of paranormal events. But let's not have that answer now. Let's keep it as a cliffhanger for a moment, because I want to tell you that I would like you listeners to check out the Paracast Plus at plus.theparacast.com. We offer the ad-free version of this show, the After the Paracast podcast. We offer show transcripts, just a few up, but more coming. We're starting to get involved in video with the new Paracast Plus video channel. Check out all the joy at plus.theparacast.com. Chris Rutkowski will answer the question of the ages about patterns in UFOs, sightings, window areas, and such. With Gene and KK, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Why be held hostage by your wireless carrier for 2 years? What if you had no contract, no activation fees, no hidden costs, tracking, tracing, harvesting customer data, or draconian gimmicks, all on the nation's best 4G LTE network? Introducing Pix Wireless. Bring your phone and other qualifying devices to Pix and to choose a plan starting at only $14 a month. Get connected now. Call or click 1-866-267-2056 or pixwireless.com. Spelled P-I-X, wireless.com. Pick Pix and get connected today.
Removing bad taste and odor from your drinking water is easy. Removing the bad stuff you don't taste is what ProPure does best. Water the way nature meant it to be. Clean, crisp, and refreshing. See the complete line of ProPure countertop, inline, gravity, and household water filtration products. Visit your authorized ProPure dealer or ProPureUSA.com. That's PROPUR USA.com or call 800-544-3533.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, There's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-905-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV.
No other network provides the level of customer service we do. When it comes to radio advertising, we are your one-stop shop. And no matter how big or small your business is, we can help. Email us at advertise@gcnlive.com, and an experienced advertising executive will help you take the first step towards driving more customers to your business or website. Advertise@gcnlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
Hi, this is James Fox from Chasing UFOs. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
So the question is raised, my friend Chris Rutkowski. What do you see, if anything, when it comes to this patterning of UFO sightings?
Well, Bruce Cathy from Australia or New Zealand quite a number of years ago suggested the lines of force and the geomagnetic lines and so forth. And I actually tried to use his calculations and the grid marks to understand if the UFO grid marks made any sense in terms of Canada. From what I calculated, there was no overlap between nodes and areas where there were UFOs seen more than any other time. Having said that, there are a few places in Canada, at least, where there seem to be more UFOs than there should be, if we're simply looking at a nice uniform distribution and factoring in population and so forth. One area is near Surrey, British Columbia, which is just a little bit north of Seattle. And there's actually been some speculation. It's actually referred to as the Surrey Corridor, where the UFOs are seen to come through this mountainous pass and seen in greater numbers than they should be. Also, you have to factor in things like flaps. A UFO flap, of course, is a cluster of UFOs occurring in a certain area at a certain time. And, is that a window or is that just something that is transient? I mean, southern Manitoba in the 1970s had a very strong cluster of UFOs being reported and vanished now for the most part. Are there things happening more often than not? It's difficult to say. I know my colleagues in Quebec are seeing many more cases than they should be, but they're also investigating a lot more in the outlying areas in the French countryside. So they are able to get out and talk to more people. So I'm wondering whether what we think are windows and flap areas are simply effects of the fact that investigators are looking into particular areas. Now, there have been historically some interesting window areas. People talk about Warminster in England and certainly Sedona and places like that. And I have some friends who are from Sedona, and they say, yeah, absolutely. There seem to be a lot of UFOs zipping around Sedona all the time.
Yeah, I'm just down the hill.
So I don't know whether...
The San Luis Valley, too, is another spot, also around White Sands in New Mexico. There's places in California, out around Joshua Tree, parts of Death Valley, Mojave. Of course, that's pretty near Palmdale and the Skunk Works and other exotic technology development areas. So, you can make the argument that maybe some of that's misidentified. But traditionally, I think these so-called window areas have more flaps in them and more attention is placed on them regionally than other areas. And I think that there is a strong case to be made that there do seem to be areas that seem to feature more of this type of activity that's above and beyond any sort of investigator being there. If the investigator shows up, then they're able to dig back into police files, go to colleges, astronomy departments, things like that, talk with local residents and stuff, and start to compile, disparate reports that never were really put together into one place, which is exactly what I did. From going 3 years not thinking there's anything going on in an area to just starting to look into it casually and finding out there's all sorts of things going on there, and that actually people knew about it but just didn't talk about it.
Yeah, and there's no question. I've gone on what are called UFO digs, where I've gone to an area where I had not heard of UFO reports coming from there. And I just, went to the local general store and the gas stations and started asking around. And lo and behold, like you say, people are coming forward slowly with their UFO sightings, but only because I was asking around. And then you dig into the historical records and you find more and more, and people were just reluctant to talk about them.
Yeah, we'll continue, Chris. I just wanted to digress a little bit and give an example of an area that I do feel is a window area that the locals knew that, but then it wasn't until somebody came along and really started digging into it that that word of this activity got out to the, to the larger public.
Yeah, and then I can even go a little bit further than that. When things were happening in southern Manitoba in the 1970s, I would talk to a UFO witness, and then I would realize that if that person had seen it, then the person a mile down the road at their farmhouse would have seen something. So I'd go and talk to that person, and I'd start out by saying, "Well, have you ever seen anything unusual? Has there been any unusual phenomena that you've experienced or things like that?" And they would say, "No, nothing, not at all." And as I was leaving, I say, "Okay, yeah, good. I have to finish dowsing for my well." And there's an overlap of some paranormal phenomena there. And then I'd talk to somebody who'd say, "No, we haven't seen any UFOs, but mind you, there's some ghost lights hovering over the cemetery, just a mile down the road." And then there's a classic case where a UFO had been seen by an entire family on a particular night, and I would look for additional witnesses. And I didn't find any additional witnesses to the UFO that night, but a mile away, some people had seen a Sasquatch. And so you're getting this overlap of all these unusual phenomena, and it's very, very tempting to say that they're all related. John Keel would just, be delighted with this type of thing when he encountered them. And I have to admit, at one point, I was very Keelian in my approach. Reading a lot of Vallée and Keel really got me going into the various types of phenomena. And for a while, I was a full-fledged Fortean looking into virtually everything.
That implies something there, which is that you are no longer in that category. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the reason is because I don't have the time. I mean, there's I spend all my free time working on the UFO cases that come across my desk. I don't have time to look into the Sasquatch cases anymore, and the ghost hunters. Even though I do, I'm actually I've been invited to participate in some seances and ghost hunting expeditions from time to time, and there's one coming up that I can't go to. But, there's people out there who are doing that, and that's where their focus lies rather than the UFOs, and that's fine. And maybe there's it opens the door for good cooperation and exchange of information in case there is some serious overlap in that.
Chris, I thought you'd have a response to that.
Yes, I do. I have noticed over the years of my 13 years in the San Luis Valley, the 10 years of intensive investigative work, that all kinds of activity on various what would appear to be divergent phenomena tend to ebb and flow in concert. In other words, if there was, and not only that, but strange weather, aberrant social behavior, there tend to be periods where, reality seems to go a little kooky, and all sorts of stuff. You get reports of crypto creatures, UFO sightings, military convoys. We had one weekend where we had 12 weird fires, and the bridesmaid, the head bridesmaid at a wedding, the sister of the bride knifed her to death at the reception, just totally out of the blue. They were, very, very obviously very close. And all this stuff happened in a 2-day period, and Stephen Greer was in town.
Oh, well, that just
it was his fault then. That's what it is, Chris. Stephen Greer did. Doesn't matter what it was. Doesn't matter when it was. Doesn't matter where it was. If Stephen Greer is there.
Yeah, now I'm not saying that all these events are connected, or that they somehow have they share some sort of causal force or something. I'm not saying that at all. I just find it very intriguing that you should have the entire center portion of the San Luis Valley freaking out for 2 days, and then everything's kind of back to normal. Although it was in the middle of an ongoing UFO flap.
Yeah. We have to get back to normal for just a couple of minutes. With Chris Rutkowski, Gene and KK, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter, and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code NIGHTOWL. Use the coupon code NIGHTOWL to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKE soft.com. lemkesoft.com. LEMKE soft.com.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS?
Get on board with the Tax Admiral. Don't take on the IRS alone. I'll cut penalties and reduce your overall tax bill. Sometimes I can even get it zeroed out completely.
We're an A-rated company helping people clean up their mess with the IRS.
If you owe $10,000 or more, then call the Tax Admiral.
Call 800-287-7180. Again, that's 800-287-7180. 800-287-7180.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states.
Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sam Nussbaum with the Anthem Foundation. Premature birth is the leading cause of death of babies and disabilities for children. That's why we support the March of Dimes to help mothers have full-term pregnancies and healthy babies. Join us in supporting cutting-edge research, treatment and outreach to help moms during their pregnancy and give every baby a healthy start in life. Learn how you can help at marchofdimes.org.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
My dad was 59 when he collapsed from a heart attack late last year. Just this past August was when we spread his ashes on the St. Croix River. I loved my dad, but boy was he stubborn. He hadn't been to the doctor in over 25 years. His excuse? He simply couldn't afford it. He wasn't a rich man by any means. At less than $107 per month, LibertyOnCall.org would have been the perfect alternative for my father. Don't wait. Go to LibertyOnCall.org right now, for not just your sake, but for the sake of your loved ones. Again, that's LibertyOnCall.org.
This is Leslie Kane, and I'm with the Coalition for Freedom of Information, and you are listening to the Paracast.
Yes, talking about patterns, other things happening. John Keel, Charles Fort, all these other things going on. What do you think about some of these more exotic theories, Chris, about UFOs, such as higher dimensions and time travelers and all that?
Well, I have an issue about the dimensional type of thing, that a lot of the contactees are now saying that the aliens who contact them are from other dimensions. I'm not sure that's the right term. I think it's a misuse of the term, because in mathematics, dimensions are very understandable things, and you probably have heard the comments that there's 11 dimensions in our universe. And they're all folded in to one another, except for the 3 or 4 that we see and can experience. The question is, if there was a creature living in the 8th dimension, would we be aware of its existence? And the reality is, we all live, everything on this planet live in all 11 dimensions. The problem is we simply can't, with our limited senses, experience all 11 of the dimensions. But an 8th dimensional being actually will manifest in a 3-dimensional world, and there will be some interactions. Not that they're invisible, they can unfold a little bit more than we can, and I have no idea how that would be possible.
So we don't have any 5th dimensional creatures who basically play mischief with us, but you can send them back to their 5th dimension by making them say their name backwards.
Yes, basically, that's how it works. Maybe in terms of, instead of dimension, you might say something like parallel universe or something like that. But dimension is definitely not the right term as we understand the mathematics of it. Now, do I think that it's possible that there's a parallel universe just next to ours, whatever that means in physics, where the aliens are coming from? I don't know. The problem is nobody knows. And so people who tell me for sure that the aliens come from another dimension, or they come from a parallel universe, or there's, some sort of passageway through time and consciousness and blah, 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 that's sheer speculation. And it's fine if you want to get into the science fiction aspect again, but I think we have to get down to earth. The old line about the truth is out there, well, unfortunately, we're stuck down here. And that's part of the issue. Maybe we'll never get to the truth because we are stuck down here. Perhaps there are ways of doing tests to verify that such dimensions really exist, that parallel universes do exist. I know there's been some suggestions that we are inside a black hole, or maybe we actually are a hologram, or maybe something else. I mean, those are all really great concepts, but proving them to the satisfaction of physicists and scientists, that's real tough. So I have some issues when I hear people, tell me about the aliens coming from this dimension or that dimension or wherever, because it just doesn't make any sense. I know that some people talk about, well, the aliens are deliberately giving us false information to send us off the track because we're not actually quite ready to join the Galactic Club and things like that. I'm hoping that aliens aren't jerks in doing that to us. But
they have pro bono proctologists who arrive and do all this pro bono work on abductees for no apparent reason.
Yeah. Well, how do you know they're pro bono, Chris?
You don't leave $1 for them on the counter or anything, or?
I don't know. I've never met an abductee that had that problem, so I've never been able to ask them if they tip. Well, I was going to say something about this when you were talking about Hilary getting to the bottom of UFOs. But
oh yes,
I resisted the temptation.
Yeah, of course.
Well, you're kind of stuck with that. You're obsessed with that.
I just think it's a funny term. I borrowed it from Terence McKenna. Whenever people would talk about abductions, he'd go, what's up with this abduction thing, man? And people believe that there are pro bono proctologists coming from other star systems. And he makes a good point.
Well, yeah. I mean, if the aliens are actually coming here, they'd want to test us in some way. And whether it's that way or something a little more benign, I make the point that it's completely unnecessary now for aliens to actually interact with people at all, because all you have to do is tune into CNN or Fox News from a distance, and you get all the information that you need about this particular planet.
That'd be enough to scare any alien to go to the next star system.
Exactly.
Of course, if they looked at Canadian news, maybe they'd be.
Well, we'd apologize to them mostly. So.
Do you apologize for America?
Oh, I have to.
You constantly. Are you kidding?
I just wonder what it looks like in Canada to all the craziness that's happening in this country, spelled Donald Trump.
Huh.
Well, Canada's has its own issues too. We apologize, but we have both Captain Kirk and Paul Hellyer. So you put those together, and
hell to pay. Hellyer to pay.
Although we also have Pamela Anderson, and we don't apologize for that at all.
You also have Scotty.
We have Scotty, and unfortunately, we also have Justin Bieber. So.
Oh my God! Really? He's Canadian? That explains it.
Yeah.
Well, what about your new premiere?
My new premiere? Justin Trudeau, right? Well, he's certainly doing things in very, very different ways. He actually dives right into a crowd to talk. He's actually holding more news conferences. I think he's held more news conferences in the past couple of months than the previous prime minister has held.
Prime minister, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
premier.
Yeah, that's why I was confused about that. The premier is another issue. Then the previous prime minister had throughout the past year. He's focused on a lot of interesting things. He's been shirtless as often as Putin. He's
cool. I bet you the girls like that.
The girls love him. In fact, I think
he's a hottie. He's a young guy. He's good looking. He's well spoken, and he's got that magical name.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, his father was actually and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. He was actually a villain in the Marvel Comics universe. That Pierre Trudeau was a villain. He was actually in charge of an organization that was ruling Alpha Flight against the Avengers. So, anybody who can do that, has some good pedigree.
Okay. I'm not going to touch that one. Well, do you think that there's any hope for some sort of transparency or some sort of governmental cooperation with the civilian UFO investigators up there? Has anyone talked about possibly approaching him and seeing if he's open to supplying some funding, some help, anything like that? Anyway, is there any scuttlebutt going on, related to that kind of effort?
Well, actually, I haven't heard that, but, even his predecessor, during the reign of his predecessor, things were pretty open up here. I think I've made the point previously that, in terms of disclosure, we've had a pretty good run of easy access to information. In fact, Do I have that in with? I thought I had something on my desk right now. I received, 2 or 3 UFO reports from the Canadian Air Force just since the beginning of the year, and I've been getting those all along. The reports are on file at the National Archives of Canada. I think there's 5,000 or 6,000 pages of documents on Canadian UFO cases that are available online now that anybody can look at. We have some pretty decent transparency in terms of what's going on. Again, my caveat is, do I think there's some cases that we don't know about? Yeah, I don't think I get all of the UFO cases. But, when I get cases that come through the military and the RCMP and police, I think I get a good chunk. That's how I can, get the numbers up to 800, 900 and into the thousands for some years.
Well, that's pretty good source material, I would think.
Absolutely.
Relatively speaking to what UFO investigators south of the border here deal with. I mean, it's just some of the stuff that passes for, people freaking out and saying, oh my God, did you see that footage? And it's like, 5 glowing objects coming together and going apart over a major city. And there's not one report filed anywhere by anybody else. So to me, obviously, it's a hoax. So
let's do our break here. And then we'll find out whether a lot of other things are hoaxes too or not with Gene KK and Chris Rutkowski. It's your turn, Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there is The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
So here's what happened. I was placing an order online. The site went down. It took hours before it returned, but I'd already placed the order with another company. If your site goes down, you could lose business. And if you have a business or personal site, you'll want to know it's easy to run and it will stay online. At iWeb, your site is hosted on one of the most reliable networks in the world. Talk to a sales rep at iWeb.com. Use the promo code TechNightOwl for a special discount.
Ted Anderson telling you about Jordan Rubin's Beyond Organic Green-Fed Raw Cheddar Artesian Cheese featuring whole milk created through ancient dairy breeding, unpasteurized, untreated whole milk on the same farm the cows graze, containing natural sources of omega-3s, CLA protein, calcium, probiotics, and enzymes. I have never tasted cheese this good, and you need to try it. Contact your longevity distributor or call 877-878-4203 or go to gcnteam.com.
You haven't experienced yogurt until you've tried a Mossy, embodying health and flavor in a true whole milk, green-fed dairy beverage. Every sip pays homage to our old world cows and the ancient culturing methods their milk benefits from. With over 30 probiotics, a Mossy's undeniably nutritious, refined, cultured sensation bolsters your health and awakens your passion for dairy. A Mossy's so good, and you need to try it. Contact your longevity distributor or call 877-878-4203 or go to gcnteam.com.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
He sounded like Bob Zanotti.
Bob's our staff announcer, so to speak. He's going to sue you now for stealing his voice.
Okay, yeah.
Theft of voice. Here you go. I'm going to ask you kind of an offhanded question based on something that you talked about earlier. You don't believe in ancient astronauts, do you?
I believe that, statistically speaking, it is more likely that aliens visited us in the past than they are visiting us right now, simply because of the long time period we're looking at. I don't think we have enough really indisputable evidence that the aliens definitely visited us in the past, but I think it's possible that it occurred. And having said that, that's not based on any scientific evidence.
Have you read the stories and the legends as to where they think we see indications of ET visitation?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I spent some time talking with Eric von Daniken himself just a few years ago, and I found him to be a great guy. I mean, very, very bright and very personable. I really enjoy his presentations. I think Göbekli Tepe is a very strange place, and I have no idea how that stuff got there. Do I think aliens made it? I have no idea. My approach would be more to say, I really don't know, but rather than say aliens made it, I just sort of say, hey, that's one of the really weird things in this world, and I think it needs to be studied more. I leave it for the anthropologists and the archaeologists and the engineers to try and figure out how those were made. I've actually, earlier in my career, I was into archaeoastronomy, and I actually published a couple of papers on some interesting linear mounds and petroforms up here in Canada that made it into some archaeoastronomy journals, where in a particular arrangement of boulders left by indigenous peoples many years ago, one of the alignments seemed to be in line with the rising of the moon on the solstice or something like that. It's very interesting to see how a lot of the the older cultures that we think really weren't that advanced had very significant knowledge about what was going on in the sky, which doesn't really surprise me because it's hard to imagine that in these days where you've got people listening to us right now on their phones and tablets as they're riding on the bus or in a train somewhere, and you have a computer in the palm of your hand and you can turn on cable television and see stream 1,000 different types of movies in one night. Not that long ago, entertainment meant looking into the sky, and so you gained a greater appreciation of your environment without any distractions by looking and really looking at what's in the sky and really looking at nature and noticing how things shift and compare and line up and how things change with the seasons and modify with time. So I think we don't have the best appreciation of what life was like 200 or 300 years ago, for example. I think that there's I just imagine 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago when the pyramids were being built, that people seem to understand alignments a lot better, and when you think that the curvature of the Earth was determined by looking from the bottom of a well, and things like that. It's very interesting to see how an appreciation of our world has come through insight into just an appreciation of nature. So I think there's some fascinating things out there. I don't know whether some of the really weird stuff was, created by ancient astronauts or aliens, but, I just have to chalk that up and shrug my shoulders, and because I don't have the answers, and I can speculate as much as anybody, but that doesn't mean that I'm right.
You did make one point here that it was more likely we had ET in the past than maybe now. Do you feel then that the force behind the UFOs is all or mostly gone, and that what we see today, maybe it's just misidentified conventional objects when it's not a hoax?
Well, that's a very good point. It is possible that, aliens visited Earth when, we were, still in the Stone Age, for example, which really wasn't that long ago when you think about it, because a lot of the Bible occurred in the Bronze Age. So that really, is not that long ago if you put it in that context either. But given that, we were talking about thousands or millions of years, maybe aliens visited us when, where Homo erectus was just starting to manifest. I said, you know what, we're going to come back in about 5,000 years and see how they're doing. And, maybe they're due to come back any time now. Or maybe it is that they, have come back after 2,000 years or 3,000 or 5,000 and said, yeah, let's keep an eye on them a little bit more. Maybe we'll abduct one for some experimentation and, put their earrings on backwards or on different ears or other people just to see if anybody notices, like John Mack had suggested. Maybe we will actually come out and reveal ourselves someday. In fact, this whole thing of disclosure, when you think about it, it's actually up to the aliens, not to us, right? That if the aliens really wanted us to know they're here, regardless of whether the government was keeping anything from us, I think we wouldn't have any choice if the aliens decided to do it.
That's the thing that's so worrisome here. If we have aliens, why aren't they making themselves known? And then you have to be suspicious of people who claim to be in contact with so-called space brothers, with air quotes, or higher beings, equal air quotes, because they're not interested in contacting anybody anybody famous. It's the farmer in Wisconsin so he can try some of their lousy pancakes.
Right. Just come to Sedona. There's dozens and dozens of people that are in close personal contact on the etheric with all kinds of beings, Zeus, the Arcturians, the Pleiadians. The list is endless.
But how do you know that? How do you know if somebody says that I'm in contact with the Pleiadians, how do you know that it's really the Pleiadians?
Well, my point exactly. I'm being facetious here.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I moved. I couldn't take it anymore.
Get away from those Pleiadians. Oh, boy. They
it's like
all night and they smell and, it's just, oh.
Well, if you're in a spaceship for 5 years and you never took a shower.
Well, yeah. Well, The Martian, the movie. Great movie, by the way.
That was very good.
Very
Loved
good.
it. Matt Damon's one of his best. I thought he was really good in it.
He's gone back to playing Bourne again.
Yes, yeah. People's Choice loved the movie but didn't like Matt Damon. Who knew,
Well, of course, they had what Jeremy Renner played another one of those characters.
Bourne franchise, as they call it.
The Bourne franchise is back with Matt Damon and one of the original directors and producers. So they're trying it again. I guess when they try to have this other Bourne character, again, the Jeremy Renner, who's also in Mission Impossible and the Avengers, to make him a similar or more powerful character, it didn't really do that well. It did enough, I guess, to make the investment.
I liked the movie. I thought it was good. I was always, though, as a kid, was a huge Ludlum fan. So I thought they've really done a good job with the Bourne stories. Of course, the last couple, I think, were written by ringers because Ludlum died. But, oh well.
Listen, look at James Bond. Never ends.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's the next Bond? It's going to be a woman, I heard.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be a woman. It might be a black Bond. It's funny. The guy who currently plays Superman, Henry Cavill, allegedly was second runner-up when they hired Daniel Craig. The problem was he was in his late 20s at the time and too young. But now, of course, he's in his mid-30s, and maybe after another 5 years of flying around as Superman and doing all that horrible exercising to build up his muscles, he'll make a decision, you know what, I'll become Bond. Of course, he did play Napoleon Solo in the remake of Man from U.N.C.L.E., which went
nowhere.
It did. I liked it, though. It's kind of a cute movie. Anyway, why are we talking about this?
Why are we talking about
it? I think they should have a transgender Bond or a transsexual Bond just to make it really interesting.
Chris Rutkowski is not going to answer that, I don't think.
No.
With Gene and KK, you're in
the Paracast.
If you're fascinated by UFOs, ancient aliens, archaeological mysteries, ghost hunting, Atlantis, and any other paranormal topic as we are, be sure to check out apmagazine.info each month. Since 1985, it has presented the latest research by top researchers like Andrew Collins, Brad Steiger, and many others, and contains interviews with such leading personalities as Jacques Vallée. Click on one of their banners and check out apmagazine.info. As you know, neighbors, web hosting can be pretty cheap, but not all hosting is the same. DreamHost wins Best of Awards year after year. You get unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, and even the low-cost plans put your sites on high-performance SSDs. Want to know more about what DreamHost has to offer? go to technightowl.com/host. Once again, that's technightowl.com/host.
Did you know that home break-ins increase more than 100% during the holidays? It takes just 10 seconds for an intruder to kick in your door. But police response to a home alarm system is more than 20 minutes. And intruders are in and out of your home in 5 minutes. Thieves know that you're not home and have presents inside just waiting to be taken. And if you are home, how safe will you feel with an intruder lurking inside with your family? That's why police across the country are recommending you use door armor. Proven to withstand the force of a battering ram, door armor keeps intruders out. It's easy to install and barely visible, and your door armor is guaranteed for life. Go to invasionstopper.com for a very special buy one, get one at half off deal. These savings are for a limited time and only available to GCN listeners. Protect your valuables and loved ones this holiday season. Go to invasionstopper.com now. That's invasionstopper.com.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care, as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
Why be held hostage by your wireless carrier for 2 years? What if you had no contract, no activation fees, no hidden costs, tracking, tracing, harvesting customer data, or draconian gimmicks, all on the nation's best 4G LTE network? Introducing Pix Wireless. Bring your phone and other qualifying devices to Pix and choose a plan starting at only $14 a month. Get connected now. Call or click 1-866-267-2056 or pixwireless.com. Spelled P-I-X, wireless.com. Pick Pix and get connected today.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
So you see, after the pro bono proctologist scenario, it's getting crazy. All right, let's talk about abductions here a little bit. Bring people up to date.
Yeah. Chris's favorite subject.
Amongst all the sightings you're collecting in recent years, much abduction activity anymore?
No, in fact, although I have to admit the latest batch, the 2015s, I would have to say that there are probably a half dozen to a dozen reports. And these are reports made to established groups. I mean, a lot of the abduction cases you hear about are through abduction researchers, who've been studying them and they've been regressing them and so forth. But to actually make an abduction report to MUFON or to Peter Davenport or UFO Info and organizations like that, I think that's quite interesting too, to suggest that it's really becoming mainstream as well. If it hasn't been mainstream already, but just imagine putting your name to this type of thing. And putting it on a form and then sending it into an organization. So I think there are at least, maybe a dozen or so that I saw in my quick glance through the reports as I'm going through them. Having said that, of course, the problem with abduction research and the abductions that I used to investigate quite heavily is that it does take a lot of time. I mean, you get a UFO report in, somebody sees a triangle flying overhead, you can go to the person's house, you can get triangulation measurements, you can get an idea of how big it is, you get them to draw a picture, talk to neighbors and so forth, you check with airports, you check with, this sort of thing. It's an interesting case that has a certain structure. But if someone comes forward and says that they believe they've been abducted and it's been ongoing since they were a child and it's happening, quite regularly. That's a case that involves a lot of time. If you want to work with a clinical psychologist or a clinical hypnotherapist, it may take several regression sessions or several therapy sessions before you get to the actual hypnotic regression points, if that's the direction you're going to go. So it has to take place over a course of several months. And of course, as you progress, there's going to be more, abduction experiences being reported and so forth. So it takes a lot of effort to investigate. And I think that's the UFO reporting themselves, if the reports themselves and the sightings themselves aren't investigated well, just imagine how much more difficult it is for the average field investigator from MUFON to handle abduction investigations. Yeah. So the problem is it takes a lot of effort on the part of investigators to study such cases. Now, back in the, I'm trying to think now, late 80s, early 90s, I think it was, when I actually facilitated an abduction, a support group. I, had received some minor training. I was my minor's in psychology, so I knew the clinical psychology department members quite well at the university. Took some training and doing some therapy. Worked with individuals who had come forward because they believed that they had been abducted and had experiences, but it was done very much like any other clinical group that one would encounter, like an abuse group or Gamblers Anonymous. There were strict guidelines on how to communicate, how the group had to run, no crosstalk and all this sort of stuff. And it was done in a very, very clinical way. And after about, I think, 5 or 6 months, I realized that the group was actually better off running itself without my involvement. So I actually withdrew from working with the abductee support group. And it continued for a number of years after that. I think that's probably one of the best ways to go about this, is to have people of like mind working with one another. The danger there, of course, is that if people are delusional, as some people have suggested about abductions, having them feed off or encourage one another's delusions is definitely not healthy. So I would, strongly recommend that clinical psychologists be involved with abduction research. It's hard to find people, willing to take them on. Not just people who have taken courses in hypnosis and believe that they themselves are contactees and they're going to help other people. I think the problem is that there are other symptoms that may mask as contact. I had a number of people in the abductee support group. One woman I remember who had been raped. The abduction memory was a mask for that event. And there was another person who was very depressed and actually attempted suicide while the course of the investigation. And when you get into things like that, for me, that says hands off. That means that it's outside the realm of UFO investigators and abduction researchers, and might rightly be better treated and studied by clinical psychologists or psychiatrists. Not because the people themselves are crazy, whatever that means. We try not to use those terms, but because whatever trauma has occurred, they're not dealing with it appropriately or don't have the capacity to deal with it. And so they do need some medical help and professional help for dealing with these issues. And for that reason, I tried to get people who have had come to me with abduction experiences to go to their own doctor, to go to a clinical psychologist, simply to help them resolve issues regarding anxiety or depression, trauma that may have occurred in their lives and so forth, because I think that's the best avenue. I think it's important that, in terms of medical advice. The first rule is first do no harm. Well, what does that mean when you come to abduction cases? What does that mean when it comes to contact cases? People who are convinced that aliens are watching their every move and directing their every move and so forth. Is there another way of handling it? And is there a way of doing it in a humanistic and a very humane way of treating the individuals? Again, not that they are somehow mentally ill. In some cases that may be true, but simply because it's a way of dealing with people who really do need help, and they need professional help in dealing with experiences in their lives.
Question I have, though, is are traditional mental health therapists equipped to handle this kind of case? Because we're dealing something here that may be beyond the ordinary, because someone who believes, for whatever reason, they're being abducted by ET. That's just not a normal case, and I would assume they'd be regarded as maybe being a little crazy?
Absolutely, and in fact, that's one of the problems, is that the abduction phenomena hasn't been studied enough or taken seriously enough by clinical professionals. Having said that, there was a paper, I'm thinking at least 30 years ago, maybe 40 years ago now, that was published. I think it was a French psychiatrist who was his theory was that people who believed in UFOs were psychotic. And,
oh boy, let's get into that in our next segment.
Okay.
Some people think I'm psychotic. I'm Gene, he's KK, he's Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Are your Google search results killing you? Unflattering content in blogs, news articles, online reviews, social media, or other sources can jeopardize your reputation, your business, and your livelihood. Let Reputation.com help. Our patented technology will make the truth about you more visible while pushing down unwanted negative content. Improve your Google search results. Call Reputation.com at 1-800-831-0771 for a free consultation. That's 800-831-0771.
Why be held hostage by your wireless carrier for 2 years? What if you had no contract, no activation fees, no hidden costs, tracking, tracing, harvesting customer data, or draconian gimmicks, all on the nation's best 4G LTE network? Introducing Pix Wireless. Bring your phone and other qualifying devices to Pix and choose a plan starting at only $14 a month. Get connected now. Call or click 1-866-267-2056 or pixwireless.com. Spelled P-I-X, wireless.com. Pick Pix and get connected today.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS?
Get on board with the Tax Admiral. Don't pick on the IRS alone. I'll cut penalties and reduce your overall tax bill. Sometimes I can even get it zeroed out completely.
We're an A-rated company helping people clean up their mess with the IRS.
If you owe $10,000 or more, then call the Tax Admiral.
Call 800-287-7180. Again, that's 800-287-7180. 800-287-7180.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-905-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Hey, this is Marie D. Jones. The author of This Book is from the Future, and you are listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Well, if you think I'm psychotic, listen to that voice again. Go back to the previous segment and rewind and listen to that voice. Okay, so this guy you're talking about, Chris Rutkowski, thought that these people were psychotic.
Well, yeah, his theory was that people who see UFOs and so forth are somehow delusional. So what he did is that he did a survey of psychiatric institutions there with the idea that if people are delusional because they've seen UFOs or the other way around, that the psychiatric institutions would be full of people who believe they've seen UFOs and had been contacted by aliens. And lo and behold, he found very few people who are institutionalized who were talking about aliens and so forth. Now, that was a number of years ago. I don't know how that would reflect now, but what that says to me is that proving that theory false suggests that there's more to it that's going on, that perhaps it's more common, maybe it's more mainstream. Perhaps people who see UFOs and believe they've been abducted are highly functioning, and they can pump gas or type in a secretarial pool or teach at universities, even though they believe that they've been abducted. Does that mean that they have a mental illness, or does it mean that there's a real phenomenon going on that needs to be studied more and is simply manifesting? I mean, if you look at the numbers and the percentages of people who have depression in our society, or who have experienced trauma in their lives and are still highly functional, would it be surprising if abductees or contactees fall into these categories of highly functioning individuals who in every other way appear normal? Maybe normal itself has to be redefined. That it's common for people to believe they've been abducted and contacted by aliens. Does that mean that the contact is really existing, or is it simply a matter of this is what some people are like? I think there's an amazing amount of research that could be done by people wanting to take a look at this. I think there's dozens of doctoral theses and postdoctoral theses waiting to be done in the field of ufology.
Does that imply here that we're all just a little bit crazy, and sometimes that craziness becomes more disturbing than other times?
Again, I know John Mack and a few others and David Jacobs are trying to make the case that there's no psychopathology involved with ufology when it comes to UFO witnesses and abductees. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, Susan, what's her name, Blackmore, made the case that UFO abductees did not display any overt psychopathology. that they were certainly normal in every other way. And yet, if you read John Mack's books, he had case after case of people who had been traumatized, who had been marginalized, who had been abused. A number of years later, had some abduction memories. So I think that there is still a lot of research that needs to be done. There was a classic paper on, I'm trying to remember some of these, the scientific papers that have been produced. I know Jenny Randall's did some work in this regard too, about people whose belief systems are so strong that when they encounter a refutation of their beliefs, they grab onto their beliefs even stronger, refusing to accept the fact that their beliefs were somehow wrong.
Well, then can we say, because this is following, that almost anyone who reports some kind of paranormal related experience, UFOs, ghosts, whatever, may have some kind of pathology involved? Because that's the implication.
I think some debunkers would like to say that, but I don't think that the evidence, the scientific evidence and the medical evidence bears that out. What we can say is that people are interested in some very fascinating things these days, and there's a fine line between genius and insanity. When you look at how individuals who are very, very intelligent are often very interested in some very unusual things. I think Stan Friedman himself looks at some of the polls that show that the more education you have, the more likely you are to believe in UFOs. I think the fact is that sometimes people who are highly intelligent, are open to this possibility, that they are flirting with what is impossible, because that's the way that advances in science are made. In fact, there have been studies to show that, sometimes dream states and working, in where you're sleep deprived and so forth actually helps the creative process, because it allows the brain to go off in different directions, and then you can come up with ideas you wouldn't have if you were in a very structured environment. So it's actually good that people are coming up with interesting ideas about UFOs and ancient astronauts and theories like that, because it's a way of thinking about our world in a very, very different manner. Like I mentioned, maybe we have to redefine what's normal in this society. Maybe people who don't think about UFOs and our place in the universe are the ones who are a little less normal than the rest of us.
Or is our conception of reality so fluid it's hard to define?
Well, reality isn't an illusion. It just seems that way. Old joke.
To some people, it's a nightmare.
I'm just waiting for the middle-aged housewife from Sudbury or from Burnaby or outside of Montreal to go, I was abducted and the aliens, they did my nails. Check this out. And there's like some weird 3D hologram that's, embedded in the... I'm just waiting for some physical evidence. I mean, come on, give it up, guys. Or whatever you are.
Well, who was one of the debunkers used to say, how come the abductees never come back with a towel from the Mars Hilton or something like that, or an ashtray, They never come back with something like that.
Well, maybe they don't have towels there. They use hot air or something.
Well, and the debunkers would be, full of that anyways, so...
Well, I'm not going to touch that one. That's an MC Hammer.
Yeah.
You can't touch that. That's a little rough.
Before we get too rough here, and we have a segment and a third left with the show, do you think there's ever going to be a final answer to this, or is this part of the process of discovering the universe where it just keeps expanding?
I couldn't have said it any better, Gene. I think this is part of the process of discovery of who we are. Asking the questions. It's the only way to really get any answers. If we didn't question our reality, if we didn't question, how things are, we wouldn't make any progress whatsoever. Being complacent is not the way to make some kind of progress. So I think that wondering about UFOs and our place in the universe is good. And I've made the point before that, it's good to have an open mind, but not so open that your brains fall out. It's good that we think about all this possibility, but, there are some, I hate to say limitations, because we try to avoid limitations like it's a bad word, but there are some limitations here. That if you accept everything, then truth is never going to come clear. If you question everything, then you're going to be frozen without any ability to move in any particular direction. So there are some ultimate answers. There are some ultimate truths, and it's being in a place to appreciate those limitations that will make us get forward. I mean, the fact that we are talking via Skype, which was developed, in a certain programming language, making use of electrons in a very creative manner. It's just nothing that's willy-nilly. There are specific ways in which the program works. There are specific ways in which the technology works so that we can actually communicate, and so that people on a train traveling between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh can actually listen to us.
You know what? We get into that situation with my son on his travels, but that's too complicated to explain. Chris Rutkowski is trying to answer the questions of the universe. With Gene and KK, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter, and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's Lemke soft.com. Lemkesoft.com. Lemke soft.com.
No other network provides the level of customer service we do. When it comes to radio advertising, we are your one-stop shop. And no matter how big or small your business is, we can help. Email us at advertise@gcnlive.com, and an experienced advertising executive will help you take the first step towards driving more customers to your business or website. Advertise@gcnlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
Why be held hostage by your wireless carrier for 2 years? What if you had no contract, no activation fees, no hidden costs, tracking, tracing, harvesting customer data, or draconian gimmicks, all on the nation's best 4G LTE network? Introducing Pix Wireless. Bring your phone and other qualifying devices to Pix and choose a plan starting at only $14 a month. Get connected now. Call or click 1-866-267-2056 or pixwireless.com. Spelled P-I-X, wireless.com. Pick Pix and get connected today.
We use mobile devices right against our bodies every day, but growing scientific evidence has emerged showing serious health risks associated with exposure to EMF radiation emitted from these devices. The solution is Defender Shield, the most effective mobile radiation shielding ever developed. Defender Shield blocks virtually 100% of EMF radiation from cell phones, tablets, and laptops, and starts at just $64.99. Buy now at DefenderShield.com. For 10% off, use promo code GCN. DefenderShield.com, the worldwide leader in mobile radiation shielding.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich? Working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare? Having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom106.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom106.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom, the number 106.com. Go to freedom106.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom106.com.
There's one major factor affecting the health of millions, and most people are completely unaware. Acid levels. Soda, meat, dairy, caffeine, and sugar can all lead to elevated acid levels in the body. AlkaVision Plasma pH drops get the body's pH levels back in perfect balance. It's a holistic, natural, and powerful approach that will give you greater health, vitality, and zest for life. AlkaVision Plasma pH drops. Visit alkavision.com. Alkalize your body. Supercharge your health at alkavision.com.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
So I gather from what you're saying, you don't think all these people who say, we got to have disclosure, the governments know the truth, we have to sit back and let them tell us, you don't think that's going to happen?
No, I really don't think that's going to happen. First of all, my own experience in Canada is I do get a lot of the cases. It's unfortunate that in the United States, for example, we do have this black hole between 1970-ish and the present when we don't really know what is being reported and experienced in terms of military UFO reports in the general population. But through the work of MUFON and Peter Davenport and Brian Vike and others, we have a good idea of what is being reported internationally. So we know the UFO reports are definitely occurring and occurring in greater numbers every year, according to the studies like ours at the Canadian UFO Survey. Now, does the government have, secrets? Yes. Does the government have more information about UFOs than we know now? Yes. I think it's established. We just one example of the United States post-Blue Book has a lot more information about UFOs. But does that mean that they are keeping a secret that the aliens are really in contact with us, or that that they're helping our technology and raising our consciousnness and
right,
all
that we have a
stuff.
treaty with them, and we're allowing them to abduct people and mutilate cattle in exchange for technology trade-offs. It just doesn't.
I don't think we can actually say that, and anybody who says that they know that for sure is just talking out of their hands, because we just don't have that information, and I don't think the information is there. Now, does that mean that we should stop pursuing it? No, I don't think so. I think that the way we find out about some of what's going on in our world, the reality behind who shot bin Laden and so forth, comes from diligent journalists, from a public outcry pursuing some of the questions that are that need to be answered. So I think that it's still worth pursuing, although I'm not sure that the million tweet march or whatever it is, and telling Congress to hurry up and to picket and all this sort of stuff, I'm not sure if that's the way to do it. I suspect that it would be more effective in other diplomatic ways. I don't think that raising the public consciousness about UFOs by constantly posting things and sending out more tweets and Facebook posts and things like that, I don't think that's the way to do it. There are many things in the universe that we don't understand, and I think it's worth studying. At the same time as people are puzzled about what's going on with regard to UFOs and disclosure, I'm fascinated by some of the aspects that are going on in the scientific community right now. The fact that we've filled up the last line of the periodic table I never thought I'd see that in my lifetime. The fact that there's a possibility we're going to be landing on a comet again, or trying to corral a comet or an asteroid. To me, that's fascinating. And for gosh sakes, if we actually do get our act together and send a small crew to Mars, those are the steps that I think will really advance our civilization, because
got to be done.
It has to be done. It's the next step in our evolution. And whether that begins the Galactic Club or not, I don't know. But it's something that needs to be done.
Now, are we in a situation here where possibly the discovery or the possibility of discovering all these presumed Earth-type planets will lead us to the realization about the fact that one of them might harbor intelligent life, or more of them, or billions of them?
I'm not a fan of the whole CD program necessarily, But I think the search for exoplanets is quite interesting. And we're just a matter of months or years away from the discovery of a planet that is really like our Earth. I mean, we have, super Earths and super Earths and things like that. But we don't have anything that is really like our Earth in a habitable zone around another star. But it's coming, even though Kepler, took a holiday, there still is enough data out there, and there's still new discoveries by other instruments that I think that we're going to be finding another Earth, fairly soon in astronomical terms. And to me, that's exciting, because at least we'll have a starting point for saying, the Beta Pictoris system has a planet that's exactly like Earth. It's exactly the same age. It's had the same evolutionary path. Maybe that's where we could start really looking for life and focus our attention on those particular star systems. And for me, that's really something, because that could be the stepping stone for ufology. Because we hear a lot about Pleiadians, which doesn't really mean anything to me, because the Pleiades is a group of stars that aren't really close to one another. They just happen to be in the same plane and so forth. So what does that mean, that they're from the Pleiades? It doesn't really mean anything. Arcturus is too large of a star, this type of thing. But if we can say that, there might be life on this particular planet around this particular star, I think that it would mean a little bit more to ufology than a lot of the sheer speculation about traveling across the cosmos telepathically and so forth.
Well, that's one way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Saves energy.
Or download your consciousness into some kind of machine.
I'm sure that Steve Jobs is going to do that.
Well, that was a theory in some of the sci-fi novels I read, where if somebody wanted to go to another planet, he would upload or download his consciousness to a clone or some kind of duplicate, and that separate individual would experience the visit, and maybe they'd merge later on. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think James P. Hogan had a series like that, where it was our avatars that actually visited other planets, not actually us. And, that makes a lot of sense, because, if it's prohibitive for us to travel to Mars, maybe having a virtual trip to Mars that can be shared by everybody on Earth simply by logging in, hey, maybe that's the way to go.
Well, if we can transfer all the sensations, other than, of course, not being able to breathe with no atmosphere.
Well, at the Consumer Electronics Show that's going on right now, virtual reality is it. And there's tactile gloves for using inside video games. We're probably just a matter of years away from full body tactile suits, and how that is going to change with the computer interface, it's anybody's guess.
Well, several of our regular guests at the Tech Night Owl Live, my other radio show, are at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. So next week, not this week, but next week, we kind of hope we'll have something about that. We're in the middle of a torrential downpour, ladies and gentlemen, at the Paracast studios, at least my studio, if not Chris's. Chris Rutkowski, please tell our listeners where they can find more of the stuff that you do.
You can find my work on the Canadian UFO survey that I do with Jeff Dittman at survey.canadianuforeport.com. And my blog is uforum.blogspot.com.
You can find us if you look at Twitter. We're known as the Paracast. We don't get a lot of action on Twitter. I don't think people really care about talking about us with all those celebrities busy doing stuff. We have 2 official Paracast fan clubs over on Facebook. Don't ask me how that happened. I think one is a group, one is a community. That's the difference. And if anybody can explain that to me, well, we'll get together for a couple of years and figure it out. We also have the Paracast Plus. Yes, we do. We just got another show transcript, by the way, that will be posted in a few days, possibly by the time you hear this episode. So here's how it works. Paracast Plus, you get the ad-free version of this show where we knock out 41 minutes of the network ads and we give you better audio quality. We have the After the Paracast podcast, and sometimes it's PG-13. That's happened occasionally. We also have show transcripts. We've got another one that is right now being processed and will be up in a short time. We have our first video at the Paracast video channel. You get all this stuff, all these goodies, if you subscribe to the Paracast Plus. Go to plus.theparacast.com. You can subscribe on a month-to-month basis, keep it real cheap, annual, 5-year, lifetime. It's exciting. It's the way to go. And there's lots of fascinating conversations about all the extra features that we offer exclusively for the Paracast Plus. Check it out. plus.theparacast.com. plus.theparacast.com. Chris Rutkowski is one of my favorite guests. That's why we have him on every so often. We're going to meet him at the International UFO Congress in the Phoenix area in just a few weeks. If he sees me, he'll run away, but that's another story. Meantime, thanks for joining us on the Paracast.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
The Paracast, featuring Gene Steinberg and Christopher O'Brien, is a copyrighted presentation of Making the Impossible Incorporated. Tune in next week for a new adventure in The Paracast.